Hello everyone, and welcome to another mini sky tonight. So Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and I thought, why not show you some of the constellations, planets, and things that you can see on this particular holiday. So if you want to take your sweetheart out and go look at the stars, allow me to show you some of the things you can see, and who knows, maybe you can watch this video and impress your sweetheart saying, oh, look over here, here's this, and be able to connect under the stars. So let's dive right into it. All right, so the first thing I wanted to show you folks before we get into Valentine's Day is on February 11th, since you got to see the Christmas star on December 2020, here's an opportunity to see another planetary conjunction, and it's for you early morning risers. So if you face east, roughly around about February 11th, and just before sunrise, roughly around about 6:58, 6:59-ish, you'll see these two bright stars close to the horizon. So make sure you have a nice view of the eastern horizon without any buildings or houses in your way. And you'll see two bright stars that are relatively close together. These are the planets Jupiter and Venus. So you get to see a planetary conjunction early in the morning. But again, it's early in the morning just before sunrise, and don't wait too late to be able to see this, because as the sun starts to rise just shortly after 7:15, these two planets will be lost in the sun's glow. So if you get a chance, step outside to have a nice view of the eastern horizon and check out this planetary conjunction. But now let's move towards Valentine's Day. So the planetarium program I'm using is called Stellarium. It is a free planetarium program that you can download onto your computer, and you can be able to look at all the different constellations and planets and things that you can see wherever you're located. You can change your location, you can change the date and time, and the great thing about it, not only is it free, it's very user-friendly, and they constantly update it. It's an open source program. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description below to where you can be able to download this program for yourself and to learn how to use it. All right, let's go to sunset of Valentine's Day. So sunset on Valentine's Day, you'll get to see the bright and beautiful moon just shortly after sunset, and it'll be a nice little crescent moon. So as I mentioned in previous videos, the phases of the moon are created by the moon's position in its orbit with respect to the sun. Now, the Earth's shadow is not projecting onto the moon. That only happens during a lunar eclipse. Phases of the moon just happen to be where the moon is positioned with respect to the Earth and with respect to the sun. So think of it kind of like you and your friend are standing around a campfire. If your friend is to the right of you, you get to see part of their body illuminated by the fire, but the other part of their body is not. And if they're in front of you, you don't get to see the part of their body that is illuminated, but you get to see their dark side. And if they're behind you, you get to see all of their illuminated side, but not the side that's not. The same thing that goes on with the moon. And you kind of can do this fun little experiment where you just literally take a tennis ball and a light source, kind of like a lamp, and basically do the phases of the moon around you if you'd like. So towards the western horizon, check out the beautiful crescent moon. So you can basically do a little bit of moon gazing. And if you have a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, especially if you have a good sized telescope, look along the terminator line right here. You'll get to see a bunch of craters, and you'll get to see different features on the surface of the moon. The way I'm zooming in and out is I'm using my scroll wheel, so you can zoom in and out on different objects using your scroll wheel in Stellarium. But nonetheless, let's look for different constellations. So let's set the sun a little bit. So those little dots that zipped by, those are actually satellites. So the great thing about this program is that it also tracks satellites. So if you happen to catch a satellite or if you plan it, like sometimes what I do is I look at what particular satellite's going through, and then I look in the real sky to say, oh, there it is. You get to see different satellites up in the sky. So what constellations we can see? Well, how about this? We put up the constellation lines. That's the great thing about this planetarium program is you can put all the different constellations lines up. So if you look towards the west, you'll see this big square of a constellation. This is supposed to represent Pegasus, the cosmic winged horse. Yeah, I don't see a cosmic winged horse out of it either. I see a baseball diamond. So you can pretend like this is home, and this is first, this is second, and this is third. In fact, take off the constellation lines. You can see the pitcher and the catcher back here. You see the shortstop. You get to see all the different positions in a baseball diamond. But if you go from home to first, past the right fielder, and you go past the center fielder, if you leave the stadium, you run into this fuzzy patch right here. This fuzzy patch is the farthest thing you can see with your unaided eye. And in order to kind of see it, you have to get away from city lights. So if you want to go out towards the country to check out some of the different constellations and things that you can see, you can definitely check out this little fuzzy patch in the sky. There we go. So this is the Andromeda Galaxy, our sister galaxy, which is 2.5 million light years away from us. But it has all the power of multiple different stars shining all at once that we're able to see it from so far away. In fact, what we can do is we can center it into our field of view and then zoom in on it. So if you want to center in something, you just put these little arrows in there, put it towards the center of the screen, and zoom in. Not only is the Andromeda Galaxy the closest galaxy to us, it's often called our sister galaxy because it's very similar in shape and size to the Milky Way galaxy. And it also has a couple of dwarf galaxies orbiting it. In fact, this one right here is known as M32, which is another dwarf galaxy orbiting it, and this is M110. Now the M designates Charles Messier because Charles Messier was an astronomer who was looking for a comet, and he came across this long list of objects that were not a comet, and he became famous for that not a comet list. He did find a couple of comets, but he's famously known for his "this is not a comet" list. And this is one of them. This is his 32nd and 31st object that he discovered, and the 110 because he had to get a better telescope in order to see this one. So these two dwarf galaxies orbit around the Andromeda Galaxy. So you may be thinking, well, are there dwarf galaxies that orbit around the Milky Way? Yes. Two of the dwarf galaxies that we can see and that are famous are the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds. They're named after the explorer Magellan because he saw them when traveling through the southern hemisphere. So a fun fact about the Andromeda Galaxy, as I mentioned, it's 2.5 million light years away from us. So as I described in a video about light years, so if you want to check out the video, I'll leave a link up here so you can check out how we do different cosmic rulers and everything and how we measure things in space. The one weird thing about a light year is not only is it a unit of distance, it's a unit of time. So it's a dual kind of unit. And so when you're looking at an object that's so many light years away, you're looking at it as it was so many years ago. So for example, the Andromeda Galaxy is 2.5 million light years away. That means it's taken 2.5 million years for the light to leave the Andromeda Galaxy to reach you. So you're looking at the Andromeda Galaxy as it was 2.5 million years ago. So you're looking into the past. So if you want to impress your sweetheart, try to see using possibly the program Stellarium or other types of programs if you would like. Look for a star that has a light year distance of your sweetheart's age and say, you see that star up there? That star is special because that star, the light as you see it now, it took you can only see it now because it was the light that it takes to travel to you. It came traveling to you when you were born. So you're seeing now that travel to you over X amount of years to reach your eyes. So a little birthday gift to you. So if you wanted to impress your sweetheart and give them a little aw moment, there you go. All right, so here we got Pegasus, and of course with the Andromeda Galaxy, here in the constellation Andromeda. She's supposed to represent the Chain Maiden. So if you ever seen the movie Clash of the Titans, she is the beautiful maiden that is chained to the rocks. Now, keep in mind, these are based upon Greek and Roman stories. And you may think, how does this little stick represent a beautiful chained woman? You have to understand, the ancient people didn't have some of the modern conveniences we have today for entertainment at night. They didn't have books, magazines, computers, televisions, YouTube, or anything of that nature to entertain them. All they had was a campfire and the stars. And they would basically kind of tell ghost stories and tell tales of death, danger, and endless love to entertain themselves at night. And they would place those stories in the stars so that way they could share it with everybody. So it was basically kind of like a blog of some kind placed upon the stars. And it was passed from generation to generation. And of course, straight up in the sky, you'll notice this bright red star. Believe it or not, that's not a star at all. That's actually the planet Mars. So if you look in the evening, you get to see the red planet Mars. Kind of symbolic for Valentine's Day with the color of red. And if you have a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, you can zoom in on this particular planet. In fact, let's take an up close and personal view of the red planet. Now, you're not going to get this kind of view from a telescope. You have to have a very powerful telescope, but you get the rough idea. Now, Mars is the fourth planet. Oop! I keep forgetting you have to pause time or else it will drift out of your field of view. So Mars is the fourth planet from the sun and is often affectionately referred to as the red planet because if you look on its soil, it kind of has like this orange rust color kind of soil. So hence why it kind of has like this orangish red kind of color. Well, because it is rusty. On the soil of Mars, it's mostly composed of iron. And since we've discovered water on the surface of Mars and it does have an atmosphere, the iron has oxidized. So therefore, it's rusty. So Mars is a cold, rusty planet. But it also has some really unique features, like this particular feature right here. This is the largest volcano in the solar system. Like of all the volcanoes, even here on Earth, this is the largest. It's called Olympus Mons. It's taller than Mount Everest by a mile. And it is so big that if we brought it back to Earth, it would cover the entire state of Texas. It's that big. And of course, there's this long crack on the surface of Mars as well. This is known as Mariner Valley or Valles Marineris. It is the grandest of Grand Canyons in the solar system. And just to show you what I mean by grandest of Grand Canyons, it literally would take a look at our Grand Canyon and say, aw, how cute, you try. Because this is why. It's deeper, it's as deep as Mount Everest is high. It is so wide that it could fit the entire city of San Antonio in its basin. And it is so long that if you were to bring it back to Earth, it would stretch from New York to Los Angeles. It is a huge canyon. So like I said, it would literally look at our Grand Canyon and say, yeah, nice try. And yet it's on a planet that's about half the size of Earth. So I'll talk more about Mars in one of my solar system tours as I get on to the next video. But the two stars that you see right here, those are actually the captured moons of Saturn. And I meant captured moons because they're actually captured asteroids. Their name's Phobos and Deimos. All right, let's zoom back out and go back to Earth. All right, so we checked out the moon, we checked out Pegasus, the Andromeda Galaxy, and Mars. Let's look over here to a famous constellation that many people recognize, with 3 stars in a row that form his belt. This is the constellation Orion. There are 2 bright stars in the constellation Orion, this one and this one. This top star is called Betelgeuse, and this bottom star is called Rigel. So now you know a couple different star names. But hidden within Orion, right underneath his belt, kind of like where his sword would be hanging from his side, you'll notice this really unique object. Not that unique object. Let's zoom in on it to see if it'll recognize the object. All right, we'll just zoom in on the stars. Sometimes the point and click mechanic on Stellarium is a little bit persnickety because there's so many things that are piled up on its top of it, so it's hard to recognize different objects. So let's zoom in on this particular object if we can. There we go. This particular object is known as the Orion Nebula, and it is a stellar nursery, because hidden within this dust cloud is where stars are born. It's basically, as you can kind of see right here in this little area, these are baby stars. They're just a few million years old. And hidden within these dust clouds, you kind of see these little faint dark areas and like little faint bright sources. Those are stars that are in formation. So you get to see not only brand new stars, but stars that are forming. So what's inside a nebula that can create stars? Well, what if I told you that every single element on the periodic table of elements can be found in a nebula? Because all the elements that were used to create stars are also used to create planets. Because star and planet formation kind of go hand in hand. When you get a star that's forming, planets can form alongside it. So therefore, all the elements that were used to create our sun helped create our planet Earth. So we are but such stuff that stars are made out of. All right, let's find a couple more constellations here. If you take Orion's belt and go up and to the right, you'll see this V-shaped group of stars called the Hyades, which forms the face of Taurus the bull. And hidden back behind Taurus, there we go, is this unique object. It's often referred to as the 7 sisters, the 7 Indian maidens, the 7 little eyes of Manarihi, the Pleiades, and or Subaru. Because Subaru is Japanese for the Pleiades. So if you zoom in here, you kind of can see the Subaru emblem on the Subaru vehicles, because that's how they take their inspiration. This is what is known as an open cluster, meaning you can see space between the stars, and these are also baby stars as well. They're just a few million years old, and that bluish haze that you can see around them is the remaining nebula that created these stars. All right, here's something for you Harry Potter fans. If you take Orion's belt and go down and to the left, you'll run into this incredibly bright star. This is the brightest star in the nighttime sky. Not to be confused with the daytime sky, because the brightest star in the daytime sky is the sun. The brightest star in the nighttime sky is this star right here. Now, many people believe, oh, the brightest star in the night sky is the North Star. That is actually not true. That's the 52nd brightest star. This star is the brightest, and it is called Sirius. So the character Sirius Black gets his name from this star. And it's in the constellation Canis Major, the big dog. And I like this constellation because it actually looks like a dog. You get to see his head, his little legs, his body, his tail, and it looks like Sirius is his collar gem. And I honestly think J.K. Rowling got her inspiration for the character Sirius Black from this particular constellation as well, because Sirius Black turns himself into a dog. All right, so let's look at if you wanted to stay up late with your sweetheart up until the morning, let's look at what the sky looks like early in the morning of Valentine's Day. So early in the morning, before the sun rises, you can get to see a couple of different constellations. Notably, this one right here and this one right here. This J-shaped constellation, in fact, for you fans that are enjoy the Disney movie Moana, the Polynesians call this constellation by a different name. They call it Maui's fishhook. So Disney actually put a real constellation in their movie. To us, it's called Scorpius the Scorpion, but I honestly like Maui's fishhook because that makes a whole lot more sense. This bright star in the constellation Scorpius is called Antares, literally meaning not Mars. And you kind of can see why, because it kind of does have a similar color to that of Mars that we got to see earlier back. But right next to Scorpius is this teapot-shaped constellation known as Sagittarius. Now, I don't see a half man, half horse kind of guy out of this. I call it the teapot, which is this asterism. Asterisms are nicknames for groups of stars. And the great thing about asterisms, and one fun thing that you can do with your sweetheart on Valentine's Day, is make asterisms. What do you see? Basically, just lay a blanket out and look up at the stars. Hey, what do you see in this particular shape? And make it your own constellations. So these are some of the constellations and things that you can see in the early morning and early evening sky around Valentine's Day. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comments below. If there was a topic you would love for me to cover over, leave it down in the comments as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, never stop learning. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.